Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 942. I'm Kevin Kallsen.
I'm George Conger. Today is November 18th, 2025.
All right, welcome to another episode of Anglican Unscripted. We are so glad you could be here. We're not talking fast because we have a time limit. No. George says I got a meeting in 50 minutes. We'll get you there, George. Don't worry. It's just, every time we're in a time crunch, it's because the whole communion and sometimes the ACNA is just falling apart, like today. But before we get too far into that, I'm detecting a throat lodges, a cold. What's going on? You sound a little sick.
I was in prison all week, part of a Kairos prison ministry week. And when you're locked into a room with 50 other men, if anybody's got tuberculosis
or a cold,
you catch it too. Oh. So I came home from Sumter Correctional Institute Sunday night with a wonderful head cold.
Oh, that's horrible. So keep George in your prayers. Keep me in your prayers. Tomorrow I have my CAT scan of my heart where they looking for a blocked artery or whatever, and then this is a process that's going on since August 28th, trying to get the right doctors lined up, the right tests lined up, and finally tomorrow I'll have an answer. And I would pray that you would keep me in your prayers, that I can be patient through this process and that they can find something to fix or tell me nothing's broken. Either would be great. But I've gone through an anxious period of my life the last couple months, not just because of cardiac issues, but the whole darn church is just blowing up before our eyes. Kind of weird. So let's move on to the news real quickly here. Oh, before that, like this episode, share this episode, go to the comment section, tell us your opinion about what's happening in the world. And if you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. The latest news of the train wreck, and the train wreck has obviously stopped. It started with some shenanigans happening in the Bishop Ruck trial a few months ago, then the blow up with the jurisdiction of armed forces and the Derek Jones affair, culminating now with Archbishop Steve Wood being inhibited by the College of Bishops for a period of 60 days. And if your head is swirling, our head is swirling. And we have to talk about this on a lot of different layers because it's a perfect storm. It's a perfect storm of watching kingdom builders, all of which Ruck built his own kingdom, did a fine job. Derek built a fine kingdom, and Steve Wood also built a fine kingdom. But there may be some character flaws in these people that make them unsuitable for the position of bishop or archbishop. We'll get to that.
The kingdoms they were building were not kingdoms of God.
I think that covers it really well. So let's talk really quickly about what happened over the weekend. My diocese, Doma, was having their synod, and I was watching Jeff Walton live tweet from the floor of the synod, and he said in one of his tweets, Chris Warner just admitted that he was one of the 4 bishops that were approached with the information about the presentment, and he says he did not read the presentment. And I'm like, oh, well, that's weird. Oh, yeah, he's a trustable bishop. If I had something I needed to be, to take, I would take it to Chris Warner too. And that was on the news that happened 2 days before that, where Chip Edgar had released a statement to his standing committee calling for the Steve Wood to be inhibited because he too had been approached with the information and he didn't do anything. And you've seen a pattern here, right? And so George and I need to talk about this on the many levels of the failure and then finally watching 3 bishops do something correct. Let's talk about the inhibition first. What does that mean?
So it is not a finding of guilt. It is a way that the church preserves the status quo. So Steve Wood is still an archbishop. He still has his spiritual powers, but he cannot run the mechanisms of the church. This is designed for if the priest is inhibited, or if a bishop or an archbishop, so that they, in essence, can't go in and backfill and shred files or things that you can imagine like that. It preserves the status quo. It must be signed by the 5 senior bishops if the archbishop is to be inhibited. 4 or 5. In this case, the 5 senior bishops, Clark Lowenfeld, Eric Manise, Kenneth Ross, Foley Beach, and one more.
The guy from, hold on. I'm going to pull up the list here. Notice of inhibition.
Alberto Morales.
There you go. There you go.
Those 5, after an emergency meeting of the College of Bishops over the weekend, signed the document of inhibition. Steve Wood may not exercise the administrative office of Archbishop. A presentment was filed, and that is being reviewed right now. This presentment has been shared. Presentment is the charges of misconduct. This was basically broken by the Washington Post about 2 weeks ago. And part of the background is that this presentment, the grounds are bullying of staff, including sexual harassment of female staff and spiritual and verbal bullying of male staff. Some shenanigans with the discretionary fund, plagiarizing sermons and other documents, including plagiarizing the work of some of his own staff.
Yeah.
And engaging in conduct and behavior that did not evidence really a godly character, but an empire builder. So and there are some more powerful statements that there was one statement in the presentment articles that the Archbishop met with Ray Sutton, the Dean of the province, and together they wanted to pick a committee that would give them the predetermined outcome they wanted ahead of time.
Sure.
Now, Ray Sutton has denied this allegation. But in other words, bringing secular political goals and tools into the administration of God's church. That's what the charges are. So where did this all come from? Well, these charges have been a long-standing. They were even before he became Archbishop. And the people who were bringing the charges were complaining before he was even Archbishop, elected last year. And when he was elected Archbishop, basically there was no way to do a background check or no way to check any of these stuff. He had already been vetted when he became a bishop years earlier, and therefore there's no way to sort of go back and check things. So complaints were made, and they were shared with different bishops in the ACNA. Look, this guy's done this, this, and this. And as you mentioned, Chris Warner, Bishop of the Mid-Atlantic, said, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't even want to read it. Don't want to touch this.
Well, and he said, in his defense, he says there's a process. The process is not to give me the document to read. The process to follow the process. Chip Baggett did the same thing. The process is not to give me the evidence. The process is to follow, I forget what the process is, but follow the process. That was their defense.
Well, the process, the critics charge, is designed to obfuscate, delay, and to give an outcome of whoever's in charge wants to have. Mm-hmm. By picking the committees who investigated, by review, doing all this and that. So these injured parties, as they found that the process was taking years and they were not getting anywhere, so they went to the press, the Washington Post. Washington Post worked on the story for about a year, ran the story about 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And the initial response of the College of Bishops was, hey, wait a second, why are we reading about this in the Washington Post that we've got a process? Why aren't you following the process? And so people like Chris Warner release public statements to their diocese saying it's wrong to have done it this way. After the College of Bishops meeting, the Chris Warner said, I was wrong to have said that because the process isn't working.
Huh.
So, Kevin and I are a bit of a difficulty because we cannot.
Well, okay. Full disclosure, we have read the presentment. It was provided to us by a third party, and we, as Christian men who had the largest Anglican news service in the world, would never publish it. We would, that's not. We don't want to break the process ourselves, so we know things that we can't say.
It's like a grand jury proceeding.
Yeah.
In other words, you get all the gold and all the nuggets in there, plus you get all the crap.
Yeah.
So and there's no adversarial that Steve Wood hasn't been able to defend himself to go against this. No, I was out of the country when this allegedly occurred. No, I didn't say that. Fred said that. In other words, we have only seen one half of it, and for us to just throw it all out there, from a truth teller's perspective, would be wrong. From a political perspective, we've seen something else.
But we would refer to other public documents like the Washington Post. So the information we will give and refer to has already been reported in other places. There's a lot of stuff in the presentment that's not been reported, and we will not report that because as who we are, that's just, I don't want to build an audience that way. This is not the National, what was that, Guardian, whatever.
National
Enquirer. That's not us.
And we're not trying to be cute to say, stay tuned for next issue. We'll drop a little bit today, a little bit tomorrow.
Yeah, cliffhanger. Understand where we are. That you need to pray for us. That we do this in a godly fashion. That we keep you, the audience, informed, and that we do not interfere with the future trial. So there.
So this document presentment has been shared with the members of the College of Bishops. It has not even been shared completely with those listed in the presentment. Mm-hmm. One of those who filed an affidavit says he hasn't seen it. He's only seen what his stuff, his work, as well as the public cover letter that was announced. So, Kevin, you're absolutely right. We can't sort of poison the pond by pulling out all the stuff that makes for good, spicy reading, because then that will drive the whole thing. But what happened over this past weekend, when the bishops got together, one of the things they discovered was that they had been misled, where they had been told that these people just went to the press without going through the process. And then they discovered that wasn't true, that the process wasn't working, that these people had been stymied by a process, that something small, refiling the process a second time, refiling the presentment a second time because they wanted affidavits and this and that, things that were not necessary. In other words, lawyerly and pettifogging tricks to delay, diffuse, and make this go away. And when part of the allegations is that the Archbishop is rigging the system to give predetermined outcomes, what we saw after this College of Bishops is that politically Steve Woods is dead. He may be innocent of everything, and I pray to God that he is. But as a political leader, it's over. If this goes public, if this presentment goes public and we have a full adversarial procedure, this will damage the ACNA. Its international reputation. All of the critics way back when it was said, this will collapse within a year. You guys are just, you're only nice to Africans because you want to have a non-white face in the pictures with you, but you're really all secret racists. You remember all that crap, all that nonsense people shit. Well, I'm not going to say it's true because it's not true, but
not true.
Presentments like this allow people to go through and look at the footnotes and look at the insinuations and try to paint a picture much darker than it actually is. Mm-hmm. And so Steve Woods behavior as it is presented has left the College of Bishops in a place of, my God, this isn't working. We need to do something.
Yeah.
And we're going to up the octane or up the ante or whatever you say.
Clearly, what they didn't work. And I got an email that I shared with you from a very prominent bishop last week saying, Kevin, this is attacks from the outside of the church. And he said, you have to look at this really closely. You're going to hear a lot of stuff that this is from the inside. It's completely from the outside. Satan wants to take down the church. That's true. Satan does want to take down the church. He wrote back.
It is true.
Yeah. Well, he wrote back 2 days later and said, Kevin, forget what I said before. This is from inside the church. This is a failure to communicate, and we feel that the College of Bishops has been lied to. Those are his words. And he changed his tune in 2 days.
I agree, Kevin. I just want to make the point that
Sure.
though the attack is not coming from the outside, the attack is going to come from the outside based upon what happened inside.
Right. Absolutely.
The knife has been forged within the ACNA, maybe wielded by the Anglican Consultative Council, maybe wielded by the Washington Post, or maybe wielded by the Episcopal Church to embarrass and delay and destroy. But the knife was prepared by people within the ACNA.
Sure. As referred to by Rachel Thibault in her letter, who said all levels of the ACNA are corrupt. Okay. Point taken. The proof is in the pudding here.
But we need to be clear about corruption, because we live in a political environment right now where corruption is, we read about insider trading is legal for congressmen, and therefore Nancy Pelosi has a 17,000% return on her investments because
it was 549,000. It's incredible,
Warren Buffett looks like he's flipping coins compared to, well, we're not talking that corruption. We're talking about the corruption of authority and power. We're not talking, nobody's making money on the side here. There's no perverts in high places that we're aware of that are being covered up. We're talking about human failings that you see in every institution. And in some respects, this is actually a wonderful opportunity for the ACNA, because the corruption isn't bad doctrine. It isn't criminal acts. Those some people think I'm close to them, but we're not talking moral, with plenty of venal sins here.
Yes.
And those can be corrected. And we got three things happening all simultaneous at the same time. We've got the whistleblowers, and they can range from ACNA 2, which in the Rook case, I really didn't believe them at the beginning, not because I had a way to say they were wrong or right, but because with their facts, they had a lot of opinion and agenda, which I didn't agree with the agenda. Their facts have been shown to be true. I still don't agree with their agenda. So I may hear what they say about keep one eye squinted, say, what's the meaning? So we've got the media and the whistleblowers from the ACNA 2 to the George and Kevin circus. That's all going on. Same time, we've got people like the American Anglican Council. They're trying to create, okay, we've got a system. How can we create a model structure that pulls us out of this hole? And they look at the ACNA 2s and the George and Kevin saying, you're making too much noise, quiet down, And we look at the AC saying, man, you guys are going to rearrange deck chairs on the Titanic till the water is above your level. But it is vital for people like the AAC and the different people to put these things together. Mm-hmm. And then you've got the third group, which I would call the bishops, the insiders, the lay members of the executive council and whatnot. We're basically saying we can work from within the system, don't mess things up. Now, I pray that is true, but that's also the most easily perverted thing. So you've got three different groups or structures doing their things. They're not in competition. They all must be taking place. But we shouldn't be hypercritical of the insider, of the scholars, of the reporters, because each has a part to play in purging the crap and the nonsense from this.
Well, the biggest thing we now know is that the process did not work, and therefore we have to create a process that does work. And I certainly believe that Bishop Ashey and others like him can work that out. In fact, they have new Title IV recommendations that they're going through. And as he said in the interview with me last month, he says, I can't believe how deep it is that we have to create this many rules. We thought we'd get away with a one-page Title IV when we first formed the ACNA. Well, it's multi-paragraph pages and it's documents now because we cannot always assume the clergy person under Title IV accusations is there to fight it for righteousness.
It's the Charles Bennison principle. Yeah. Charles Bennison, the former Bishop of Pennsylvania, if a clergyman can do the wrong thing and still skirt under the rules, he'll do it. So this is some of the accusations against Rook, that his process has been driven out for 4 years because of all the sort of hoops that are being placed in the way of justice. This is the accusations against Steve Wood. This stuff was known by his accusers even before he was elected Archbishop, but the system didn't permit challenges to his moral integrity or character that would question, is he suitable to be Archbishop? But the good news is that this can be fixed and it's not fatal.
Well, the good news, now there's people in power in places that are doing the right thing. Ray Sutton did the right thing. He resigned as dean. He said, for whatever intents and purposes, I do not believe I participated in the conversation with Steve Wood about making a Good Boys Network trial for him, but I'm going to step back. I'm 75. I need to focus on my own diocese. Right thing to do. Chris Warner did the right thing. I'm sorry, I was approached, and let me assure you, the process does not work. I call for the inhibition of Steve Wood. Chip Egger stepped forward and said, yes, I was approached. The process did not work. I encouraged the College of Bishops to inhibit Steve Wood. People are doing the right thing. It's just a little slower than you and I are used to, George. And I want to commend them for that because, like I said last week, if you want to be in line of repentance, you better be first in line. And we're now seeing some bishops who are first in line to say we're sorry.
One of the long-term implications of this is I think we're going to see diocesan consolidations take place. Some of the dioceses were created when the ACNA was formed to be personal fiefdoms. A charismatic person who had a circle of friends could create a diocese, and because you want this guy inside the tent rather than outside, you made him a bishop. Didn't matter that there were 4 or 5 other dioceses already in that geographic area. You wanted to add him into the mix. And this incident will give serious consideration to the ACNA thinking, do we need or do we want it to have, you can go 2 miles to join this diocese and then 2 miles to join that diocese to go bishop shopping, which is one of the issues here.
Yeah, it's one. Affinity diocese is something very difficult to live with at the level of the ACNA working as a province. Clearly, the women's order issue is also very difficult for the ACNA to deal with. But I think looking back, especially with the early adopters, the first generation of bishops, we had a lot of people that were just famous for making their own kingdom. And the mavericks, so to speak. And I've always included Chuck Murphy in that. Great guy, but had character flaws. And you can't let people with these type of character flaws into the leadership of a righteous, holy church. It just doesn't work, as we can see. Have we covered this topic to death yet?
Well, we probably left more people unsatisfied.
Yeah.
Because they said, well, we want to know what the nasty things are. And you guys are being holier than thou. Which is not new. We're always holier than thou.
Yeah, come on, what are you talking about here?
But I think I think it's more important to focus on where things will go.
Mm-hmm.
I am confident that this will work itself out for the best for all concerned. Well, I think we'll see canonical reform within the ACNA. Used to be the joke, well, why does the Episcopal Church need a canon law book with cases this thick? Well, and the AC only needs this. Well, the reason why, because men are sinners, and you need to cover every possible way out. We'll see canonical reform. We'll see jurisdictional reforms. Some of the games, this is part the Derek Jones case, where we had ACNA being unusual of the jurisdiction of the armed forces was a jurisdiction of Diocese of Carolinas, and the Diocese of South Carolina, are contemporaneous.
Yeah.
And why is that? It's not a women's issue. It was an ego issue. If I can't be bishop of this diocese, I'll have my own diocese. We'll see those things resolve themselves, and that will leave the ACNA stronger.
Oh, this week, people say it's a bad week for the ACNA. Monday was a very good day of a brand new ACNA that now has to wake up and find out that its bishops are not princes. Your bishops are human, your bishops need your prayer, and your bishops need a solid set of rules that they have to operate by. And if that doesn't work, and you're not willing to reform, you're going to have more days like last week.
One of the things, Kevin and I have now been around long enough that there's now a Wikipedia entry about us, which
I saw that.
Was funny. I saw, who has so much time on their hands they could write about you and me. But we've been around long enough where the Church of Uganda, when we started off, the Church of Uganda was always a dynamic church, growing church, but there were some little issues there. Bishops being given Land Rovers by the government, or money for this and that. Some things being overlooked. And we saw the Ugandan church, because of the light of the gospel shone on them and the truth held up to them, they didn't cover things up, that they were able to clean their house of corruption. So unlike the Kenyan church next country over, they've got a squeaky clean reputation. Not everybody.
No, not everybody.
But even when they went through the crisis of an archbishop accused of adultery, they were able to publicly handle this and come out stronger. Now, the scandals affecting the ACNA are nowhere near the level of adultery. ACNA can come out stronger if it follows the model that the Ugandan church did, of putting all before Christ, trusting through Christ, and letting the Bible, not political calculations, be their guide. So that's why I'm confident that this will work out for the best.
Yeah, I would expect and hope that we would see some statements from the entire College of Bishops apologizing, asking forgiveness, asking for prayers on how they move forward. I would expect some very vibrant discussion of Title IV reforms and structural reforms within the ACNA. And I would expect this all to happen, within the next few months. Now, nothing happens overnight in a church. Church is slow. That's how it is. Church is not only slow, church is agonizingly slow. But church is also hard, because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with spirituality, you're dealing with the Holy Spirit, you're dealing with all levels of the kingdom, and you're dealing with a war that sometimes you forget that you're fighting. And so I don't mind it being slow if it's going to take good, strong steps in reforming itself. Church is always in need of structural reform because somebody else was going to figure out another way to run askew of the rules. It's the nature of broken man. And, we hope for better days. Let's move on to some more stories here. George, how much time we got before you got to leave out of here?
I got time for a few more.
All right. Why don't we do number 6? We could do number 5 next week. Number 6 is relevant because they're getting around the rules. All right. Colin Coward has written an article citing papers that says it's too late to stop any of the LLF and too late to stop clergy from performing same-sex blessings in church because we have the rules in Canon B5 that say we can do it. Na boo boo. Crazy.
Church of England's bishops basically torpedoed the Living in Love and Faith process to lead to standalone gay blessings, gay marriage. It's dead in the water because they finally admitted that all along they had been told that they would need a 2/3 vote in the synod because they'd be changing doctrine, and you can't just do it because the bishop feels like doing it. So the conservatives go, hooray, 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 we've won the day. Well, not so fast, Charlie. The progressive forces in the Church of England are saying, well, you've given us this much, and you're not taking it back. Colin Coward, who is a well-known activist of the Church of England, retired priest, actually, Kevin and I are friends with him. I would call him a nice guy.
He may not call us a friend, but I call him a friend.
He has published an article where that the gay activists in the Church of England received legal advice. They can continue with gay blessings. Quote, Canon B5 allow them to proceed. Liberal church lawyers argue, quote, it is clearly in order for any cleric who wishes to do so to use the commended PLF, Prayers of Love and Faith, resources in any regularly scheduled service. It would be open to any priest relying on Canon B5.2 to use a form of service considered suitable by them to provide a service of thanksgiving and a prayer for a couple who approach them. So what the lawyers are telling the gay activists is that you've already seized the ground. You don't have to give it back. You don't have to call it a duck, but you can walk like a duck, you can quack like a duck, you can swim like a duck. Just don't call it a duck, and you've got everything so long as you don't use the word duck. Mm-hmm. And the gay activists are saying, fine, we'll take that and we will run with it. So that there's legally very little, if anything, that a bishop can or will do to stop them from having gay blessings. So if a parish, let's say a London parish that is very active in these affairs, can have a regularly scheduled service on Saturday afternoons or whatever, that would be basically their gay wedding times. Because it's regularly scheduled, they can use the LLF prayers, and it's already scheduled. So there you go. So why we're raising this is that ideology, the ideologues, those who have a must-achieve worldview, will use any tool that they can. Just because the rules don't say what they want it to say, they will change the rules to achieve what they want. Or they'll work around the rules, or they ignore them, or celebrate them so as to achieve the aim that they want. And the aim is gay marriage.
Yeah. And blessings and all that goes with it. All right. I think we covered most of the show. Did we announce who the new dean is? Did we cover that? No. Okay. So the new dean of the province is Bishop Julian Dobbs. So he'll be in charge as dean. Archbishop Steve Wood is still an archbishop, but how does that role work? He doesn't serve in any official role right now until either he steps down or
he's still archbishop. Yeah. He has all the spiritual He's still a priest. He can celebrate the Eucharist
Sure.
and this
Yeah.
and that. He just does not have the administrative
Okay.
office.
All right.
That is hidden. That is inhibited or suspended for 60 days, so as to prevent funny business from
Sure. Yeah.
file erasures and things like that. So Julian Dobbs would be the acting archbishop for administrative purposes.
Okay.
And if a decision is made to extend the inhibition or go to trial, then Dobbs's position would, then the College of Bishops would elect a new archbishop. Dobbs just doesn't step into the role.
Right. All these little minor things that, people out there are going to be asking. I just thought we didn't cover the Julian Dobbs thing, which I'm sure some of we'll have to cover more news stories next week regarding all this.
Part of there's just the whole suite. Part of the things. One of the little steps was that earlier at the end of last week, before the College of Bishops meeting, the Archbishop announced he would take a voluntary inhibition.
Where's that in the rules?
And one of the critics said, well, that means you can voluntarily uninhibit yourself. It doesn't work that way. It's not in the canons of the rules. But in other words, there were so many little tiny steps until the bishops got their act together and issued the formal inhibition. Mm-hmm. So Steve Wood cannot undo what has been done. Where if it had been a voluntary thing, okay, I'm Archbishop today, but I'm going to go play golf tomorrow, and I'll let you deal with that.
Yeah, geez.
It's not going to work that way.
So what do you do as a viewer, listener? It's your job to pray. Pray for the church, because now that people are doing the right thing. Last week, my stress level was off the sky chart high, just full of stress about the church. Nobody was doing the right thing. Nobody was admitting to any wrongs. Everybody said, Kevin and George, it's you guys complaining about it. The church is doing just fine. Monday, the church is looking just fine. It's starting to come around. It's starting to notice that there is a problem. It's admitting the process doesn't work. Well, we need to pray that they can make a process that does work. Just being the opposite of the Episcopal Church doesn't mean you're going to have a successful church. Just being the opposite of the Canadian Church and its processes doesn't mean you're going to do this. Now, you survived the first 10 years, the first 15 years. We got to get you to 20 years here. So get your work together. Please pray for the ACNA. Pray for the Anglican Communion, because this process, just like the Ruck and Derek Jones stuff, isn't going to be over in a week. This is going to take 6 months to a year to work its way out, and it needs your prayers the entire time. I'm Kevin Kallsen.
And I'm George Conger, and you've been watching episode 942 of Anglican Unscripted.